I am going to be ranking the 9 core books that are in the First Law universe. And that starts with the original trilogy, which is The Blade itself, Before They Are Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings. And then there's 3 standalone books, which is Best Served Cold, The Heroes, and Red Country. And then there's the latest trilogy, which is A Little Hatred, A Trouble with Peace, and The Wisdom of Crowds. And to be clear, I am ranking them out of my enjoyment. I'm not looking at them in any analytical way. This is just how much I enjoyed the stories when I read them. And also, to be clear, I liked all 9 of these stories. There's none of them that I hated. So even the one that I'm going to be putting in 9th place, which I know a lot of people out there love, and maybe it's their favourite one, I still really enjoyed that story. Just someone has to go at 9th. So coming in at 9th place is The Heroes, which is the middle of the standalone stories. As I said, I did enjoy this, but I do enjoy war-based stories a little bit less than others, and this entire story takes place in a single battle within a wider war. I found that it jumped around in perspectives quite a lot more than some of these other stories, and there were quite a few of them that I just really didn't care about, so every time we jumped into their point of view, I sort of lost a little bit of interest compared to other characters. And I think I was just hoping a bit more from it after reading the original trilogy and then The Best Served Cold. This sort of felt a little bit flat compared to those ones, which probably hindered my opinion on it a little bit. I still did enjoy it, but it is going in 9th. In 8th place is the first book, which is The Blade itself. This was quite hard for me to put in 8th because I did really enjoy it, and it introduced me to the world, and I really enjoyed the world as I got through these 9 books. But if I'm looking at all 9 books together, this one definitely was one of the weakest. The story follows 3 main point of view characters at the beginning, and all of their stories aren't connected in any way, and they all have their own things going on, and it's only towards the end of the book where they start connecting and you start to see the wider story. And I think that's why I struggled a little bit more with it, because there's no clear direction for the plot. And with any first book, you have to really grip the reader with the characters, with the plot, and with the world. And I feel like he just put a lot of emphasis on the characters, a little bit on the world, and not really much on the overall plot. Each character did have their individual thing going on and their individual plot, but not the overall plot, which is why it's going into 8th. And in 7th place is The Best Served Cold, which was the first of the standalone books. The biggest problem I had with this book is I didn't really like the main character. So this one, you are following one main character, and there are some side point of views you get, but there's just one main character you're following, and I didn't really enjoy her as a character. It was quite refreshing to read a story which is quite straightforward. It's essentially a revenge plot where there's 7 people that wronged her and she's out to kill the 7 people. So that was nice that it's quite a simple plot, especially at that point I was also reading some Cosmere books, so it was nice to just get back to simplicity. But I think because I didn't gel as much with that main character and some of the side characters as well, I either didn't care about or I did care about them and I wish we'd spent more time with them. There was this weird part where up until that point I'd really enjoyed the characters, and then this first story I didn't enjoy them as much. I still liked the story as a whole. As I said before, I liked all of these stories, but that is why I've put it into 7th place. In 6th place is The Last Argument of Kings, which is the final book in the original trilogy. So by this point in the trilogy, the multiple point of view characters that you've been following have all converged, and there is a wider plotline going on, and at this point I was really enjoying that. The ending to this book is a little bit weird. It was like there was a lot of strings that hadn't been tied up, so the end chapter is basically you just visiting all of those different strings, and Joe Abercrombie just being like, oh, and Barry's doing this, and Perry's doing this, and Terry's doing this, and it was quite a disjointed ending to a book for me. But if you had taken that bit off the end of the book, the sort of finale scene, I guess you would call it, was really cool, and it brought a lot into it that you had been following throughout. It's really hard to talk about a finale of a trilogy without giving spoilers, so I'm trying my best. Yeah, although I did enjoy this book a lot, I enjoyed other books more. Next up is A Little Hatred, which is the first book in the most recent trilogy. This one was a bit of a rougher start for me because you get quite a lot of point of view characters compared to some of the previous books, and I did find it a struggle to follow which one was which and which storyline was happening where. So it definitely started slower, and some of those characters I really just didn't care about their story. It did pick up later on, luckily, but right at the beginning there was some that I just really didn't want to hear their point of view. But as I said, it did pick up, and by the end of the book a lot of these storylines had joined up together and there was a wider plot going on, and that's the kind of story that I enjoy, when there's lots of different elements going to make one large plot. But I think just because I struggled at the beginning so much, I couldn't put it any higher than this. Next up is Before They Are Hanged, which is the second book in the original trilogy. So at this point in the story, some of the plot lines that had been set up in the first book are now interjoined, and there's a quest element to some of those characters, and then there's a really interesting siege storyline going on somewhere else. And I just think in this book, every single storyline that was going on I was enjoying, which is why it's higher than some of the other books in this list. And I feel like at this point you really understood the characters a lot more, their motivations, their flaws, and I was a lot more invested in their stories compared to the overall story. But then he was also building in the overall story to make it even more interesting. So yeah, that's why this one is so high on the list. So here we go then, let's go into the top 3, and the third favourite story for me was Red Country, which is the third standalone story. From a storyline, this is quite a simple rescue quest line type of story, but there was just a lot of interesting characters. I enjoyed the main characters that you're following, and then there's a lot of interesting plot lines and side characters that are also introduced. The environment was a fun change as well, and where they were is in a completely different place to any of the other stories, which was good. And although it started as a simple rescue quest storyline, there are stop-offs which get quite intriguing, shall I say. And I feel like as an ending to the book, this one was probably the most satisfying out of all of the stories, except for maybe number 1. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it, which is why it's number 3. So those who are astute know that it is book 2 and book 3 in the most recent trilogy that is left. So in second place is book 2, A Trouble with Peace. By this point, the confusion of all of the different plot lines and the different point of view characters, I'd gotten over all of that and understood what was going on, and the story had really gotten to life. There's a lot of mystery and not really knowing what's going to happen next. There was plot lines all over different continents, and those characters that I said I wasn't enjoying in the first story had changed quite a lot by the second story. They had progressed and grown quite a bit, so I was actually enjoying them by this point. And with these changes and the growing plot, I was just really enjoying this story by then. But I had to put The Wisdom of Crowds as number 1 because I just thought that was such a great finale to the trilogy. There were some reveals that I wasn't expecting, and the characters just continue on their journey, and some of them end up being much more important, shall we say, than others. But even those that sort of take a little bit of a sideline, they still get some very interesting progression through their story. And just this final trilogy as a whole, I really enjoyed it. It's one of the best trilogies I've read and enjoyed, I would say. And unlike the original trilogy, where the ending was a little bit haphazard and I wasn't really invested that much in it, this ending I thought was pretty much perfect for the story. So there you go, there's my ranking of all 9 books. Let me know down in the comments where you would rank them, and if you have differing opinions to me, let me know down in the comments. And if you want more content like this, go and check out this video right here.